Hello, everyone. Welcome to Everything is Energy. Welcome to the weekly astrology forecast for March, the first week of March, 2026. Exciting times. This is a really neat week. We are in Pisces season. Uh, you know, there's an emphasis on emotional integration this week, intuitive awareness, and also just learning how to move gently with ourselves while we're moving forward. This is also Eclipse week, and I'll get to a highlight about that in a little bit. But let's go ahead and kick things off with today, March 1st, Sunday. Today is a day of some tender adjustments. We have Venus semi-sextile to Chiron, just about as I'm recording this around noon. So this is like a subtle heart awareness. This is, Venus is in Pisces and it's lightly touching on Chiron, which is in Aries. And this is just suggesting that there's an opportunity for healing through being gentle and honest versus forceful and intense and confrontational. So there may be some kind of heightened intuition, heightened sensitivity. Maybe even there's an old wound that has surfaced today. And this is a time for us to soften rather than get defensive. And this is not about dramatic healing, it's about refining. And I will share with you how I've been spending my day, because it's very much a Venus sextile Chiron day for me. But I'll get to why that's relevant in just a second. Let's move on to tomorrow, Monday, March 2nd. Just one aspect today. The whole highlight of the week is the eclipse, is the Virgo eclipse on the 3rd, and I'll get to that in a moment. But let's first just kind of feel into what's happening on Monday. This is Mars sesquiquadrate Jupiter. This is in the afternoon, early afternoon, around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So Mars is newly in Pisces. Mars is at 0 degrees Pisces as of today and into the eclipse tomorrow. And so that might feel a little bit scattered when Mars is interacting with Jupiter in Cancer. But as I mentioned in the podcast for the lunation of the eclipse full moon, Mars at 0 degrees Aries almost invites in a subtle way the uplifted, ascended nature of Mars versus the fear mongering, war mongering, power over. Mars at 0 degrees Pisces has this innocence about it, but Pisces is a very wise sign. Mars isn't always comfortable there, but it doesn't mean there's not ways for us to move forward. And with Jupiter in Cancer, this is, there's this idea of emotional expansion. So what's interesting for us to note is, if there's anywhere where we've been taking action without waiting for clarity, this is really about preparing us for tomorrow's eclipse. This is about remembering that we optimize things when we go with the flows of energy. So this is a recalibration day. It's a good time this week for us to be quiet, for us to be within ourselves to prepare for the eclipse. I mentioned that in the eclipse gathering that I did yesterday. And let's get to the eclipse itself, which is exact at just around 3 a.m. on Tuesday, March 3rd, Pacific time. It's visible in the Western states fully, and it's partially visible in the Eastern states and many other parts of the world. But I wanted to mention, I have an entirely separate podcast on that lunation. But what happened to me today in regards to my broadcast for the eclipse, which has now been amended and updated, I like to think of myself as very human. I like to think of myself that I don't make mistakes. But when I was reading the chart for the eclipse, I get these really tiny charts and I often will blow them up on my computer screen just to make sure I can see everything. And I didn't blow it up. And if you have a look at the glyph for Virgo and the glyph for Scorpio, I initially thought this eclipse was in Scorpio. It's not, it's in Virgo. And I just redid the entire podcast. I redid every offering that I've given through the gathering so that we are locked and loaded and ready for tomorrow's eclipse. But I was kind of laughing in that I'm having a Virgo eclipse moment because this eclipse is with the moon in Virgo, but it's a South Node eclipse. And I pride myself on being highly attentive to detail, excuse me, and competent and doing my research, and just didn't quite I just missed the glyphs literally. And so it's been kind of a humble recalibration day for me, and I'm doing this all on Sunday. So in terms of a theme of Venus semi-sextile Chiron, um, there's I mentioned the desire to soften rather than to defend, and I had to sit with myself and realize I got to go tell everybody that I misread the glyph, and I do this for a living. So there we are. That's my eclipse moment for you guys. And if Virgo is teaching us anything with this eclipse, it's about discernment and attention to internal detail, attention to internal dialogue, and also being softer with ourselves. I mentioned in the gathering yesterday that it's a really good week this week to be still, journal, meditate, slow down, drink a lot of water. It's not that this eclipse is going to knock us all on our bums, but it really is. Whenever eclipses happen, it's a nice practice to be open to what's happening when we're not just racing around with everything being status quo. So if you didn't get a chance to check out the Eclipse podcast recently, I suggest to check it out one more time. And also, I'll put a link to the gathering where I'm teaching folks to look at where you can pull your own birth chart and you can look at your birth chart and you can see how these transits that are powerful transits, you can see what areas of your life they might be impacting. And that's a really fun way to start to deepen your experience in astrology. Let's move on to Wednesday, March 4th. There's two aspects here. March 4th is a day of depth and a day of surprise. We have Mercury semi-square to Pluto around 8:30 in the morning. And this is really going to help our mental body and our understanding of our communication go deeper. The conversations that we have, the understandings that we have, the things we're listening to, there might be this sense of the bottom dropping out or layers coming through where it's not just what's being said, it's what's being communicated. Hidden truths may surface around this day. It's also a good day to just, remember that Pluto invites us to transform, but we don't need to overthink. We don't need to ruminate on anything. We just need to have our realizations and make the pivots as we're moving along. Now, we also have Venus sextiling Uranus just before noon on Wednesday. And this is a really awesome spark of freshness and vitality into the emotional field. Uranian energy is lightning bolt style, but Uranus reminds us that we are the high technology we seek. And this eclipse in this week is all about remembering that our heart is so powerful and our heart is so intelligent. And so there might be around Wednesdays some kind of unexpected joy or connection or creative breakthrough. So this is a reminder that even in sensitive and pivotal times, that joy is possible and joy is present. So this reminds us to stay open and to keep our hearts open. Moving on to Thursday, March 5th, we have a couple things happening here. Thursday's generally a day of structured expansion. We have Mars semi-sextiling Saturn, which is why I say that. That's around 6 a.m. So this is kind of a subtle discipline returning. We're being invited to have our action be steady and intentional. We also have the sun trining Jupiter around noon. And this, beyond the eclipse, this is just one of the sweet, simple, most uplifting aspects of the week. Sun trining Jupiter is going to help us expand our confidence and remember that we are the creators and that anything is possible. And if anything's possible, it's going to help us continue to keep our hearts open and keep our perspectives open, and even maybe be able to widen our perspective a little bit more. But this is an exaggeration. This is about grounded optimism. It's about letting ourselves feel hopeful. Friday, March 6th is a day of creative spark because Uranus is active again. This time the sun is quintile to Uranus very early in the morning, just about at 6 o'clock. And this is an energy of innovation and inspiration. And they're going to blend beautifully around March 6th. New ideas, subtle breakthroughs, It's also important for us to follow our joy and notice what feels exciting. This isn't about moving through fear. This isn't about engaging in that we're worried about chaos. This is about using our intuition and our intuitive intelligence have to receive insight. And then on Saturday, March 7th, this is a really, there's a couple really awesome aspects here. This is where the heart and mind align. Um, we have the sun conjunct Mercury at 6 a.m. So there's a clarity that can come. Our thoughts and our identity can feel like they are in sync. This is really great for journaling or articulating what our truth is. We may just be able to be more coherent about the things that we are seeking to express, but also self aware. Um, and it might be a day where we're kind of ready to give words to something that we've been sensing all week. We also have Venus conjunct Neptune at 6:30 in the morning, and this is just pure Pisces magic. This is going to be a day where compassion can deepen and love and heart energy can expand. It's also a day where beauty feels transcendence and justice and harmony do feel like they are the order of the day, or they are things that are very relevant to us. So it's a really great day for spiritual practice, for forgiveness, for emotional connection and emotional release. It's also worth noting that daylight savings time begins, so we're extending, at least where I live, the light. So let's go ahead and welcome in the eclipse this week. I'm grateful to have you with me. Have a blessed week. Tons of love.